Pokemon Sword and Shield have officially been out for a little over a week now, and many people have already finished the game and are now getting into the nitty-gritty details of the game itself to try and find every little interesting secret and detail about these titles that they possibly can. As I played throughout the game myself, I definitely noticed a lot of really interesting facts and tidbits, and I've also seen some really interesting ones discovered by others who shared them online as well. And so today I thought I would go ahead, as I did a couple weeks prior to the game's release, and cover 20 more amazing facts about Pokemon Sword and Shield that you absolutely need to know. You guys showed a ton of support on the last facts video about Sword and Shield, and I want to sincerely thank you for that, and because of that I thought we would go ahead and do it again, especially now since the games are officially released. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started. Also, just really quick, this should be self-evident, but I want to cover myself just in case. Spoiler warning for this video, spoilers will be talked about within this video in the various facts, so you have been warned. Starting off at the beginning of the game, something that many of you might have picked up as well is the fact that Sword and Shield are officially the very first main series Pokemon games where the professor of the region is not the character to introduce you to the world of the game itself, and Chairman Rose actually takes this role within the games instead. A really interesting feature that comes out of Pokemon Camp that's also something straight out of the anime is that in your camp, while you're chilling with your Pokemon, every so often a wild Pokemon can kind of just waltz in to enjoy the festivities with the rest of your team. And when this happens, it's actually possible for the wild Pokemon to want to join your team, meaning you can actually obtain these Pokemon without any battling or attempted catching whatsoever, which is an insanely cool feature to have. So at this point, I'm sure you all know of the Pokemon Cramorant. It is a derpy bird Pokemon that was revealed prior to the release of the games themselves. However, now that we have the games, we've also learned a couple more interesting details about this Pokemon as well. Cramorant's shiny form goes from a blue in its base form to a bright orange color, and as a matter of fact, this color is not random because it's actually most likely based on the story of a seagull in Wales back in 2016 who turned completely orange, just like Cramorant appears in the games, after falling into a vat of, get this, curry, which is also featured heavily within Pokemon Sword and Shield as well. Another fun thing about Cramorant is its Gulp Missile ability, where whenever it uses Surf or Dive, it will come back with a Pokemon in its mouth. Most of the time this is going to be Aerocuda, who it will then use to launch at the opponent for damage, but every once in a while Cramorant will actually come up with a Pikachu in its mouth instead. This fact is actually referenced by the Pokédex, where it says sometimes it misses its intended target when it's going down for food, and this is actually referred to as an official form of Cramorant, officially dubbed its gorging form. The very first gym leader you face in these games is the grass-type user Milo, and even though he is the weakest gym leader of the bunch, he is definitely no pushover either, as his ace Pokemon and his highest level Pokemon is a whopping level 20, which is by far the highest level Pokemon that any first gym leader within a main series Pokemon game has ever had. Moving a couple gym leaders down the line, we will find the Fire-type user Kabu, who is the third gym leader that you will face in the Galar region. The interesting thing about Kabu, aside from his Fire-type specialty, is that according to an NPC and his League card, he is actually originally from the Hoenn region. Personally, I was kind of hoping, given his older age, that he would actually be Flannery's grandfather, who gave the gym leader to her back in the Hoenn region in those games, but it doesn't seem like there's any connection there. Nevertheless, however, I think it's really cool to have characters in this game from other regions. I mentioned in my first fact video about Sword and Shield prior to the release that there were several characters that were named after different fruits and vegetables, which kind of took the whole naming scheme for Pokemon characters being named after plants to the next level. And now that we have the whole roster of human characters available to us, there are even more out there that are named after fruits and vegetables. We have the mother-son gym leader duo Melanie and Gordy, which are named after melons and gourds respectively, and are both officially classified as fruits, although sometimes gourds can be regarded as vegetables as well. And then Kabu, the aforementioned Fire-type gym leader, is literally named Turnip, as Kabu is the Japanese word for turnip, combined with the word Ka, which means fire. Believe it or not, there are actually two different versions of Poltergeist and its pre-evolution Sinistea, one that is real and one that is quote-unquote fake. The Pokédex actually alludes to this, saying that the pot that Poltergeist resides in is basically a very esteemed, valuable antiquity, and many forgeries are made. Well, Poltergeist will end up using these forgeries as their makeshift home, and basically almost all of the Poltergeist and Sinistea that you encounter in the game will actually be one of these forgeries, because an authentic Sinistea only appears in the wild 1% of the time. The way that you can tell the difference between a real and fake Poltergeist is with an authenticity stamp that is stamped on the bottom inside of Poltergeist's pot that you can see for a brief moment when you Dynamax Poltergeist. Both of these forms also have their own unique Pokédex entry and even have their own unique method of evolution, where the fake Sinesteas require the cracked pot to evolve while the real ones will use the chipped pot. A nice attention to detail that can be pretty easily missed is the fact that when it comes to the Pokemon Meowth, it uses the cry of a regular Meowth when it's in battle or when you check it out in the Pokédex. But when it comes to the special Gigantamax Meowth that is currently being given away via Mystery Gift, it actually uses Meowth's cry from the anime. Take a listen. An interesting fact about the eccentric gym leader Opal that can be found via her league card is the fact that she has actually been a gym leader at the Balanlea gym for a whopping 70 years, hence why she is looking for a replacement in the game. If you stop by the Sirchester boutique to check out what kinds of clothes they offer, you'll actually notice something interesting about some of the clothes themselves. I personally do not know if this was intentional or if it's a straight up error, but the names of the Pikachu Payback and Astonished Eevee torn tops, as well as the casual tees, are actually mixed up, where the Pikachu Payback shirts actually show Eevee and the Astonished Eevee shirts actually show Pikachu. Also in Sirchester, if you stop by the hotel in town and go into one of the rooms, you can actually run into various Game Freak staff, and if you talk to one of them, they will say that they are traveling to the Galar region for research, and they also mentioned that curry is very popular in the Kanto region as well, which implies that that's where they are originally from. This is very fitting and probably intentional considering the real-life Game Freak headquarters are actually within the real-life Kanto region. That's obviously also the very first region and where Pokemon began to begin with, but nevertheless, still an interesting fact. An interesting fact about the Pokemon Carkol is that in its Pokemon Shield Dex entry, it states that it can travel over 18 miles per hour, and the flames that it breathes exceed 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. This is most likely a fun nod to the fact that Carkol evolves from its pre-evolution Roly-Poly at level 18. A fun little detail that's actually really easy to miss and was brought over from Pokemon Sun and Moon is that if you spin the left control stick around several times, your player character will actually do a spinning motion and then end with the victory pose that you see Leon do throughout the game. However, this time around in Pokemon Sword and Shield, this is not just a fun throwaway type of mechanic. This is actually used to evolve the Pokemon Milcery into the Pokemon Alcremie. However, believe it or not, it's actually much more complicated than that, because the form of the Alcremie that you end up evolving into is completely determined by the evolution and depends on the time of day that you do the spin, the length of the spin itself, and whether or not you were spinning clockwise or counterclockwise. This is definitely one of the strangest evolution methods of all time, but at the same time, I absolutely love it. One of the more whimsical new Pokemon we were introduced to in the Galar region is Mr. Rime, which is an evolution of Galarian Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime in and of itself has always been a really funny Pokemon, and its new evolution Mr. Rime is definitely just as quirky and interesting. However, what's really interesting about the inspiration for this Pokemon is that its appearance with its bowler hat and mustache is actually directly based on Charlie Chaplin, who was a famous actor and comedian, which is actually where Mr. Rime gets its species classification as the comedian Pokemon. A really nice attention to detail that can actually be observed right from the beginning of the game is within your own house, because if you look within your bedroom and take a look at your Nintendo Switch, the Joy-Cons that are on your Nintendo Switch in the game will actually match the ones that are on your Switch in real life, even if you swap them out and regardless of the combination you have. This naturally can only be observed when you're playing the game in handheld mode, but even still, it is an insanely nice attention to detail. The final city that you travel to within the game to take on the Galar League Championship is known as Windin, and as you might have known already, is directly based on the city of London. This is also where it gets its name, combined with the word win spelled in an English fashion, which obviously directly references the fact that this is where the Galar League Championship takes place. One neat little trick that's actually been discovered by various players is that if you have a Pokemon with the Flash Fire ability at the front of your party, it actually increases the chances of you finding a Fire-type Pokemon in the wild. One thing that I just had to mention in the video for its beautiful irony is that when the rival character Bead was initially revealed prior to the launch of the games, many fans mistook him initially as an old grandma character of sorts, due to his hairstyle and his purple coat. That obviously isn't the case, but this was a common mistake that many members of the community made initially, including myself, so it is extremely ironic, poetic, and frankly beautiful that within the actual game, Bead ended up taking over as gym leader for an actual old grandma character. And last but certainly not least, Pokemon Sword and Shield actually have two different kinds of shiny Pokemon. There is obviously the traditional kind, the one we all know and love, that uses the traditional star sparkle animation to indicate that it is shiny. However, in these games, a new kind of shiny has been added as well that uses a new square animation instead of the sparkle star animation to indicate that it is shiny. The shiny Pokemon that use the square animation, even though they don't look any differently color-wise, are actually even rarer than the standard shinies, because for every shiny Pokemon that you encounter on top of the normal shiny odds, there's only a 6% chance of getting a shiny that uses this square animation. However, there is actually a bit of irony to this, because currently, according to Cerebi, there is a programming quirk within the game that essentially flip-flops these odds, where normally you're only supposed to have a 6% chance of getting the square animation shiny, but currently that is the case for the standard animation, whereas you're actually going to have a 93% chance of getting the square animation shiny, I guess at least until this programming quirk is fixed. And those were 20 amazing facts about Pokemon Sword and Shield that you need to know. There are brand new, fascinating things that are coming out about this game all the time, and these were just a couple of the ones that I have noticed and other people have noticed since launched, and I really hope you guys learned a thing or two today. If you guys did and you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of these facts, or if there are any new or interesting things that you have noticed that you would like to share, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content all the time. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can do so by checking out my Spotify and listening to my remixes, and checking out my Pokemon Cardinal project, as both of those are greatly appreciated and greatly help out the channel a ton. With that being said though, I'll be back on Tuesday with another video, so be sure to hit that notification bell so you can know when it goes live, and until then, as always, I love you guys, and I will smell you guys later.